In this video, I am going to tell you about how you can magnify your social media presence. Now, growing a following, especially on LinkedIn, can have a huge benefit for your career. You can come across as a personal brand with your boss, with your future employers, with your peers, with the newcomers, with other people in the industry. And having a following and a good following on LinkedIn will help you immensely in your careers. And in this video, I'm going to talk about how I grew my following from 300 followers and I grew it 100 times. Right now it's around 30,000 over the last 2 years. And the principles I'm going to talk about in this video are very actionable. You can do this, but if you follow this, it will give you tremendous rewards in your career. But before we start, do subscribe to the channel, click on the bell icon so that the next time I make a video, you come to know about it. So the first question before we get into the 5 steps is, why did I suddenly start focusing on LinkedIn? I started focusing on LinkedIn about 2 years back. And this is because I had a conversation with the editors of one of India's biggest newspapers. And she was telling me that, Sandeep, if you want to be a successful writer or a successful speaker or a successful professional, you need to have a strong social media presence, LinkedIn especially. If you don't have that presence, you cannot succeed in your life. And if you cannot sell yourself, the world is not going to do it for you. So the same principle applies to you. If you cannot sell yourself, the world will not do it for you, and you need to have a strong social media presence. Now, I'll be honest with you, it takes some time. It does take a lot of effort. So it will take you 30 minutes a day, but I think it is a tremendous investment you can make if you can spend 30 minutes a day and grow your LinkedIn by 100 times or 1,000 times over the next 3 years. Now, before we also get into the 5 steps, you should be careful about something. My recommendation is, do not try to become an expert in all the social media platforms. So do not try and master LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube at one go. Pick LinkedIn, take it to a sizable following, then go to YouTube, pick it to a sizable following, and then go to Instagram. So, or in any order which works for you, but do not master all of them at one go. So here are the following 5 steps you should follow to grow your LinkedIn account. And again, I'm going to tell you, it's going to take you 30 minutes a day, but it is absolutely tremendous when it comes to an ROI perspective and what it can do for your career. So step number 1 is pick 3 things you want to talk about. So what can the 3 things be? One is typically your work. So if you are in analytics, talk about something interesting in analytics. If you're in software, talk about some interesting news story in software, some new skill you picked up. So number 1 is typically where you have credibility in, where you are currently working. If you're working in consulting, talk about consulting. Number 2 is something from your own experience. So your own life experience, your own learnings in life is the number 2 thing you should talk about. And number 3 is generally around lifestyle. So talk about what interests you. What's the last book you read? What's the last movie you watched? Your commentary on, say, a contemporary issue, say Elon Musk taking over Twitter, or even cricket, sports, your hobbies. So typically these are 3 facets you should talk about. What is your credibility in terms of profession, your own learning experience in life, and 3, something about lifestyle. So if you look at me and if you follow me, you will see I generally talk about FMCG and consulting, where I have the credibility in. Second thing I talk about is my own journey in writing, my own journey in speaking. And the third thing I talk about is lifestyle. I talk a lot about cricket. I talk a lot about contemporary issues, movies, etc. So find out the 3 things you're comfortable with, which you want to talk about, which takes us to step number 2, which is now you have to talk about them on the platform. And if you're starting off, it can be a little difficult. So you should start posting once a week when you're starting off. And as you get more familiar, you should get to twice a week, thrice a week. I post once a day as you get more familiar. Now, there are certain nuances you have to be careful about. There are certain times of the day that work very well. So I have seen that 9:30 in the morning works very well. Most people are just logging in and they typically scroll through their social media, or during lunchtime between 1 to 2 is again a very good time period, because again, people during lunch take a break, scroll, or 8 o'clock in the evening when people have pretty much wrapped up for the day. That's a very good time. So these I've seen are generally good times to post. There is high traffic, you will get a lot of traction. Now, in terms of content type, the algorithm keeps changing, to be honest, but right now the LinkedIn algorithm is favoring pictures with a bit of text. It's currently not favoring videos, it's currently not favoring text, but the algorithm keeps changing. So right now that is the kind of content that is working. And you should also know that there are certain types of content that will always do well. So content around lines of, if you can share your failure story. So 3 things or 3 areas where I failed when I went for my first internship, 3 areas when I failed when I went for my first interview, my first job, my first relationship. These are content, typically what we call motivational, do very, very well. Something very sarcastic about, say, about your neighbor or about your boss, or something very witty or funny also does very, very well. It gets a lot of likes, gets a lot of traction, but you can't do it every day. You can do it once in a while. You typically cannot do it every day. So that's step number 2 in terms of how often you should start posting. Step number 3 is people don't talk about it, but it's very, very critical, is about engaging with your audience. So you will have a lot of people who will comment on your posts, will send you messages. You should try and respond to at least 80% of them. Even if you cannot help them, you should always respond. And you should always, if someone's putting forward an opinion which is not similar to what you're saying, maybe a difference in opinion, you should try and engage with that audience. The more you engage, the better loyal network you will have. And this also applies to when others are posting content. So look at influential people in your area, and when they post content, engage with them, build a certain set of rapport with them. It will help you immensely. However, which brings us to step number 4, is you should learn to avoid the trolls. Now, when you start coming on social media, you will face a lot of acid. There will be some people who will abuse you, especially if you're a lady. You will get a lot of toxic harassment online. People will be rude to you, and the way forward is to just block them ruthlessly. So where do you draw the line? If someone is differing with you but is doing it with respect, that is fine. But any hint of an abuse, any hint of a personal insult, any hint of body shaming, any hint of any form of harassment, you should just block them. Delete the comment and block the person. And do not give them a second chance, because you should realize that 1% of the people typically cause 80% of the problem for you. So absolutely go and block people ruthlessly, even if they are your friends, even if they are your neighbors, even if they are your relatives. Step number 5, and the toughest step to do, is the mindset shift. Now, when you start off on LinkedIn, you absolutely have to showcase all your achievements, whether it's a promotion at work, whether it's a good appraisal, a certification, anything you're happy about, you have to go and showcase on LinkedIn, and you have to tell the world, look, I'm doing well, because there is so much noise, there is so much competition, you have to stand out. And a lot of us come from middle class families. It's not easy to just go and just show off in front of the world, because we've all lived up, we've been brought up with the saying that do your work well and the world will take care of you. It doesn't work really that way. You have to sell yourself, and that's the psyche problem and the psyche challenge you will have. But I'm sure you will overcome it as you keep moving forward. So here are the 5 steps which I have followed. I'm pretty sure they will work for you. But you can connect with me on LinkedIn to see how some of these steps are coming into life. So what are other ideas you have? Drop them in the comments. I will try and respond to as many as I can. Before we end, do subscribe to the channel, click on the bell icon, and till next time, take care.